All right, let's talk about AI, but not just where it is now. We're going to strap in and take a look at its entire wild 70-year roller coaster of a history. It's a story packed with these incredible highs, some really crushing lows, and a few moments that honestly changed everything. So let's get into it.
So, where does this all even begin? Well, you have to go all the way back to 1950, and it starts with a really simple but just profound question from the father of computer science himself, Alan Turing. He basically asked, can machines think? And to test it, he came up with this idea called the imitation game. The whole point was to see if a machine could trick you, a human, into believing it was also human. And that one question, it basically kicked off this global obsession that we're still living in today.
Now, finding the answer to that question, it has been anything but a straight line. Seriously, it's been a total roller coaster. You have these massive hype cycles where everyone thinks we're about to solve it all, followed by these devastating crashes where everything just grinds to a halt, only for the next climb to go even higher. So let's actually take that ride, starting from the very, very beginning. Okay, first stop on the ride, the birth of AI. This was an era of just unbelievable optimism that, as you'll see, was about to come to a sudden, grinding halt. So picture this. It's the 50s and 60s, and the excitement around this stuff is just electric. You've got Turing setting the stage, and then in 1956, there's this big conference at Dartmouth where they officially coined the term artificial intelligence. And these researchers, they were so confident they genuinely believed they could crack the whole thing in just one summer. And out of this era, we start to see the first real attempts, like a program called ELIZA, which was basically the world's very first chatbot. And ELIZA was, well, it was fascinating. It seemed so intelligent, right? It would act like a therapist. But here's the thing, it was all a clever trick. It wasn't actually understanding you. It just recognized keywords in what you typed and flipped your sentences back at you as questions. No real thinking involved. But what's crazy is that people felt a real, genuine emotional connection to it. It's a phenomenon we actually call the ELIZA effect to this day. Yeah, that illusion of intelligence, it just couldn't last. All those massive promises of walking, talking robots, they just weren't happening. The hype had gotten way, way out ahead of the actual technology. And what happens when the hype dies? The funding vanishes. And that kicked off what we now call the first AI winter. It was this deep, deep freeze in research that lasted for almost a decade. And there it is, the first big, stomach-lurching drop on our roller coaster. But, after every winter comes a thaw. The roller coaster car starts to click-clack its way back up the hill. And this next era of AI, well, it wasn't really about trying to mimic human thought anymore. It was all about harnessing the raw, brute force power of computation. Okay, so check out this number, 200 million. Just let that sink in. What do you think that is? It's not the number of computers in the world or lines of code or anything like that. That is the number of chess moves IBM's computer Deep Blue could calculate. Not in a day, not in an hour, but every single second. And back in 1997, it used this sheer brute force power to beat the world chess champion, the great Garry Kasparov. Now, it didn't think like a person, it didn't have intuition, it just outcalculated him on a scale that's hard to even imagine. So AI had pretty much mastered logic, but it was still missing that human spark. So, for AI to take its next big leap, it needed fuel. And that fuel, it turns out, was data. Tons and tons of it. The explosion of the internet was the key. Suddenly, we had these massive data sets to play with. And you had things like the Netflix Prize in the mid-2000s, where they offered $1 million to anyone who could improve their movie recommendations. And that proved it. The future wasn't going to be about painstakingly programming rules into a machine. It was about letting the machine find patterns and huge piles of user data all on its own. So now we have the ingredients, right? We've got massive amounts of data, and we have much, much faster computers. The stage was absolutely set for the biggest, steepest climb on our roller coaster yet. This is the deep learning revolution. For decades, there was this thing that was super simple for any human. A toddler could do it, but was almost impossible for a computer. And that was just looking at a photo and telling the difference between a cat and a dog. Simple, right? Not for a machine. But then 2012 happened. At this competition called ImageNet, a team used a new technique called a neural network, which is kind of inspired by the human brain. And they didn't just beat the old records, they absolutely shattered them. The error rate just plummeted. This right here was the birth of modern AI as we know it. And this breakthrough, it led to one of the most legendary moments in the history of games, period. Fast forward to 2016.
Google's AI, called AlphaGo, is playing against the world's best player of Go, a game that makes chess look like checkers in terms of complexity. And in the middle of the match, the AI makes a move that left every single expert watching absolutely, completely stunned. Was it a rookie mistake? Or was it a stroke of genius?
That moment is now just known as Move 37. It was so bizarre, so completely alien to how humans play the game, that the commentators on the broadcast literally thought it was a bug, a mistake. But it wasn't. It was a move that no human player would have ever even thought of, and it turned out to be the move that won the game. And this was huge. For the very first time, we saw a machine show something that wasn't just raw calculation. It felt like, well, it felt like intuition, maybe even creativity. And that brings us almost to the present day, to the moment AI exploded out of the research lab and landed right on our laptops. I'm talking, of course, about late 2022, when OpenAI released ChatGPT, and it just went nuclear. It hit 1 million users in 5 days. Just think about that. And this wasn't just more of the same, it was a fundamental shift. See, for decades, AI was mostly predictive. It was about classifying a photo or recommending a movie. But now it was becoming generative. It was actually creating brand new text, new images, new ideas, basically from scratch. So, wow, after all those insane twists and turns, all the ups and downs, you have to ask, where does this roller coaster go from here? I mean, think about the ride we've just been on. We went from these simple chatbots that were just swapping words around, through the pure brute force logic of chess computers, all the way to AIs that can pull off moves that feel like genuine human intuition. It's just been an incredible journey, full of those soaring highs and those deep, frozen winters. So, the machine has mastered logic, and now it's starting to learn creativity. Which leaves us with the big question, right? What's the next twist in the ride? What's the next new capability that's going to emerge? Is it going to be another unexpected loop-the-loop or another breathtaking drop on this AI roller coaster? Honestly, we're all just strapped in, waiting to find out.